And then if we can get those thoughts to be reframed or shift a bit, then they can start taking different actions because of it. So when I went through my, moment of lack of visibility, I had to create a sentence that helped me. And a lot of people might have heard of something similar to this, but it's kind of trying to take the future and bring it to the present. So like I am, and mine was, I'm a bold, visible leader who transforms organizations.
Hello, my fellow humans, and welcome to the Multiverse Podcast. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Susan Barber. Susan is a former corporate leader turned executive coach. Susan, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yes, I'm excited for this conversation. You could let our audience know a little bit about your journey, what you've been on, and how you're helping other humans out there.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I spent many years in corporate. I worked at Kraft Heinz in different functions, sales, supply chain, and food service and IT. And that is where I encountered some challenges with visibility, not being visible enough, even though I thought I was. Imposter syndrome, because my degrees are management and marketing, not IT. And so all of those things started to contribute to me not showing up as big as I should have been. And if you want to climb the ladder, that is kind of a necessary thing. So all of those lessons I took as I left the company in 2015 and started my own business and started to really focus on how can I help leaders learn what I learned about visibility and how to show up in a bigger way and talk about the results so they get noticed. And as part of that, the book was written, which is The Visibility Factor. It came out at the end of November of 2021. And that is a book that a lot of my stories are in, to be honest. People had no idea those things were happening for me unless they read the book. And now I built a process for people to build their own visibility plan. And my new book that's coming out is meant to be a workbook to help people begin to implement more of the things that I've taught them in the book and what I have learned since the book came out. So, and the podcast is just a fun part of it as well. It's another medium for people to hear the information and learn about it and really help them start to implement more ideas and stuff that we share.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I've actually myself gone through that same journey, especially with the imposter syndrome and not understand the importance of being visible as well. I was more like invisible to myself and to others.
Yes.
So I think bridging those two things together to understand your own visibility is very important. And everyone's journey is kind of different with that.
Yeah, I mean, I started off with trying to understand, what does this even mean? Like, what does visibility mean? And the only thing that I could see at that point was people who bragged. And I didn't want to be someone who bragged. So it was really hard for me. And that's why I think I held myself back. And I also worried about being judged and criticized because I didn't come from IT. So as I started to recognize, I observed other people at first and I thought, they're just offering to help. They're just offering to help someone else do something or share an idea. That's not that hard. Why am I making this so hard? So I started to implement some of those things, but my most visible thing I did was to sit at the table with the executive team. So I removed myself from the back of the room where everyone said I was and not participating to being at the table and participating. And I started to recognize through the help of a business mentor that I had a lot to offer. I was there for a reason. I was hired for a reason, and they needed to hear from me. Plus, I came from the business. Not many people came from the business into IT. So I had this really unique perspective that I could share with other people. So some of those things helped me start to show up differently. And then I brought my team to the table too, because I wasn't only making myself invisible, I was making my team invisible, which is not great. So I never wanted that. That almost really killed me to think about that. So once I started to do this, I thought, you know what? This isn't as bad as I thought it was. And so everything I learned, are things I taught my team, now things I teach my clients. And those are ideas that are going into both books because I want people to be able to do this for themselves.
I love that because it is a very hard thing, especially in IT. People are kind of invisible. They seem like it. They only know who they are, what they're doing, but they're trying to help other people. And it's just kind of like this worlds colliding kind of thing. Because I've experienced that myself in IT. There's so much to know, so much to understand. I feel like when you learn something, you learn that you don't know everything, or there's something you don't know or understand. It's this constant struggle.
There's a lot to learn and it changes every day, right? So it's
Yeah.
hard to keep up with.
How can you not feel like imposter syndrome?
Sure.
I used to think I had to know everything, but learning over time. It was okay that I didn't, as long as I knew where to go and find the right information to get the help. And that was kind of a really game changer.
Yeah. Being able to ask for help was not something I was good at initially. So once I learned that other people were asking for help, I thought, why am I trying to like muscle through this all by myself, or with my team? I could ask for help. So that was also a big thing for me once I learned that, started to share that with other people. Like it's okay to ask for help. And I think as leaders, we need to set the example for our teams that we don't have all the answers. We don't know everything. And that's why we have a team who knows all that stuff. So I don't know. There was a lot of learnings over those years for sure.
I like how you said your team was invisible too. That's kind of
Hmm.
a powerful thing right there, to recognize that if you feel invisible, then your team will be invisible. If you don't see them, you don't see you. That's like, wow. Never really thought of that concept before.
Yeah, because what happens to an invisible team that no one knows what they do? It's the first one to be eliminated when you're looking for reductions in an organization. So I I I got the message when I took over the team from my boss, who was wonderful, and she said, "You're the only one who's really looking out for this team, and you need to figure out the vision and the strategy and how things can be done in a better way and develop your team. And if you're not doing that, no one else is." So, it was really like a little bit of pressure at that moment. Like I'm taking over this whole thing now. But, it was really good that she told me that because I don't know that I would have thought about it at that moment either. That it is important for whoever's leading a team to really be kind of paying attention to how it's being perceived on a regular basis.
That is so true. Because so many times when you have a team of people under you, you're never really trained how to properly help them achieve, let alone help yourself run them.
Right.
So that gets a little
Yeah.
demanding and stressful, I imagine.
Yeah. I'll share this analogy with you that someone shared with me. I don't know if it would help the audience think about it, but they said, you're really great as an individual contributor and you become this superhero, right? Where you come in and save the day and fix the problems for the users and address the issues. But when you become a leader of people, you have to put your cape in the closet and build new superheroes, right? You have to help them become the superheroes. And so that really helped me recognize that I couldn't do it all. First of all, there's no time to do it all. And I shouldn't be doing it because that's not my
Yeah,
role anymore, right? And so you have to it's like a paradigm shift in your brain you have to have where you realize that that's not what I do anymore, but it's hard to turn that off because I think
it
I
is.
always loved IT because there's an adrenaline rush to getting all the things in and doing them well and the users are happy, but there's a lot of pressure to make that happen. And so I think for everybody who's now not doing that, it feels like you're missing something sometimes.
It really does. I like how you mentioned the pressure, because it is. They expect you to know how to do it. They expect you to know everything. And then they can't forget that you're still another human being that's still trying to figure this out and learn as well. And
Yes.
sometimes they kind of treat you like office furniture instead of a human. It's kind of it's a weird paradigm there sometimes.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
I am not furniture. How dare you?
Don't be rude. Don't say that to me.
Right? I find that happens quite often. I'm curious to learn, what kind of steps did you take and things to overcome to get past your imposter syndrome? 'Cause from my understanding, it's something kind of still stays with you, but it just gets less
Yeah.
prevalent over time. It's just always there.
Yeah. I think, well, what I learned is that imposter syndrome cannot exist when you take action. So if you start taking any type of action, even if it's a small baby step, it helps that imposter syndrome go into the background because you're doing something to address it. And I think for me, I was the queen of perfectionism. I wore the crown proudly, thinking I had to do all the things, not only at work, but at home. And I think Brene Brown helped me think about that differently, where she said, that's just trying to avoid criticism. And of course, I'm a firstborn and, I've the person who's doing everything so perfectly and not wanting anything to fall or be seen as a problem or to be given any criticism at all. Of course, that person tries to be perfect. And perfectionism is an illusion. It's not really realistic to exist anyway. But I have multiple versions of what imposter syndrome can show up as, like procrastination or not holding boundaries or playing small, devaluing yourself. All of those things show up at different times. So you might have one form of perfectionism showing up, for example, but the other one might be procrastination in another situation. So I think what happens is if you can recognize it and know that it's happening, you can start to say, what's one action I could take to move past this right now? Because if you stay in that place, you're just stuck. You're not moving forward.
I feel that resonates so hard with me. Take action. 'Cause if you don't, when you take the action, it makes the imposter syndrome slowly dissipate.
Mhm.
That's so true. I've felt that
Mhm.
on my own journey,
Good.
realizing like, let me just get up and try and do something. And the more action I take, the less it does go away. But then, like you said, it does come up in other areas as you're growing. You're meeting other things that you're not used to, don't know much about, but you have to learn about. Like, who the hell
Yeah.
am I to learn this? Who do I think I am? And that this it does come up. Hey, my fellow humans, sorry to interrupt your video, but if you're looking for more ways to protect and empower your healthcare practice, we would love to help. At ITCMD, our mission is to simplify IT, boost security, and support your compliance journey with a human touch, so you can focus on caring for your patients. Want to see how easy IT and cybersecurity can be? Schedule a free consult or check out our resources at iteecmd.net. Let's build a safer, stronger future together. Okay, bye.
Yeah. Well, Adam Grant, who wrote a lot of different books, he's a professor at the School of Wharton School of Business, and he calls it an opportunity for learning and growth and making mistakes and learning from them. So when you have that moment of imposter syndrome, it's just a sign that you're about to do something that's bigger, that might be placing a small seed of doubt inside of you and that you're going to grow and learn from it. And it really helped me when I learned that too, because everybody has imposter syndrome. I think the statistic is like 70% of people in the US are walking around with imposter syndrome every single day. So imagine if there's 10 people in the room with you in a meeting, 7 of them are going through this. Oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't think I'm smart enough to be here. I don't know enough. How should I talk about this? So all of those things are happening. And what happens then? No decisions, no creativity, no innovation, no recommendations. People are just stuck and afraid to speak up. And that's really what I want to help people learn is speaking up doesn't have to be this crazy perfect question. It can just be, tell me more about that. Could you say more about that? I'd love to hear more about that. Just getting your voice out there starts to let you feel a little more confident.
I like that. So asking kind of the right questions.
And they could be small questions. They don't even have to be really big. But the other thing I think helps is preparing some questions in advance so that it's not this panicked moment of, oh my gosh, I have to come up with the right question, which
I've
is
been
what used to
there
happen to
myself.
me.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you go to like
So,
networking events.
yes, for sure. Networking events I dreaded with in a big way,
I still
but
do
I
know it.
got
I'm working on it.
yeah, I mean, it's hard because there's so many people there and I'm a little bit more of an introvert. And so for me, it feels overwhelming.
Yes,
And
100%.
so right? So I just had to get to the place where I thought, you know what? I don't have to meet everybody. I can meet 4 to 5 people. That's all I have to do. And when you do that, it just calms your nervous system down, right? You're not freaking out anymore. You're just like, you know what? I'm just going to meet this one person. I'm just going to talk to them. And it just helped me recognize that I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, telling myself a story that introverts aren't good at networking. Well, that's just putting a label on myself that I didn't need to do. So there's all these things we're kind of mean to ourselves sometimes, and we just have to
Yeah.
be kinder and know that we're all learning and growing and we don't have to have all the answers.
Sometimes the stories we tell ourselves are never true. They're
Mhm.
all make believe.
Yeah.
They definitely can hold us back, especially when you're in those
Mhm.
events with a lot of different people around. Like, and I've experienced that. I go in there, I talk to a few people, like, okay, I'm good, I'm leaving now. Bye. I get overwhelmed, but then like as I keep doing it, it gets a little bit easier each time. But like my experience was it's hard for me is connecting with people because a lot of people are somewhat have this like non-authentic ability to
Mm.
connect.
Yeah.
And I feel and pick up on it. And it can be very
Yeah.
hard for me. I'm sure you've had that happen a lot too. It's hard to talk to those
Yes.
kind of people. Do I have a conversation sometimes?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just try to, have a minimal conversation maybe with them and find the people who
I
are
go by
authentic and genuine. Hope you enjoyed the networking event. I got some other people over here to talk to now.
make up something and bail.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to talk to you more about being visible. So how I want to know kind of about that process, especially in your new workbook coming out. You kind of
Mhm.
talked about us, walk through some examples of how that works.
Well, in the book, the original book, the visibility factor was about helping people understand what visibility means, how it is important to your career. If you're not being visible, then people don't see you and know what you're doing. And especially in the world we're in today, it's so busy, right?
Oh,
Nobody
yeah.
has time to pay attention.
You work here?
So I do, right? Yeah. Who are you? So I do something which is, I call them putting a movie reel in front of other people. So reminding them about what you're doing. And that might be a status report, that might be having a one on one, might be just talking about something in a meeting that you're doing so that people can think about you, because we're trying to make sure that people who are making leadership decisions about future roles think about you. So we have to stay in front of decision makers. Otherwise, you won't get promoted necessarily. In the workbook, what I'm trying to do is help people think about the language, the words, the way that they are showing up and talking about the value and impact that they're making in their organization or that they're making for their team so that people can see, wow, they're contributing in a really big way. So, for example, you could say, hey, I did these reports, they're done. I put them on your desk or I sent them an email, right? True, those are facts. Or I could say, I put this report together and I pulled some different data and we put that data together and we came up with some new things that can really help us make better decisions. I wanted to show you the draft of it. I hope it's really helpful for you. Let me know if you have anything else you want to add. Now, who doesn't want that second person to work for them, right? Because they're making
I
their
think
boss's life easier. So I learned a long time, your boss is really your client, but you don't think of them that way, right? You spend all this extra time for your clients. But I was in a class one time and they said, think of your boss as your client and it will change the way that you show up. And that was really brilliant because I didn't think about them that way up until that point. But if you start to think about everything that you're doing and how can you demonstrate the value and impact of it, it means you're first of all working on the right things. But second of all, people are going to see that you can contribute and that you're ready for the next step because they can see leadership, thought leadership from you. They can see analysis, influence, all of the things that you might need to have to go to the next level. So you have to start demonstrating those things before you get the job. You can't wait until you get the job to show them.
ooh, that hits home really hard because I myself was in that part. I didn't understand how to reframe conversations and bring value.
Hmm.
Because being in
Yes.
IT, I'm like, hey, we have to do this to protect the company. This has to be done. Why the hell aren't you doing it? And that was the conversation. Clearly, that was not valuable. And
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
I look back on it, I'm like, it makes sense why they never paid attention, don't reply to my emails. Hmm.
There's always a reason why we just don't always know what it is. And that's,
Yeah.
we have to do a little sleuthing and figure it out.
Right, and I started doing that and reframing like, "Well, this is what needs to be done, so let's do it this way. What is your, input on this, how we can move forward?" It's kinda reframing the conversation, and they started replying back with, "Okay, let's put some time in the calendar. Let's figure this out." And, like, that kinda created that visibility. I was like, "Huh." Because none of this is taught in any job or school. You go in there, you don't know how to really communicate or get your points across or talk to leadership. Like, no one tells you these things.
I know. Well, that's, I think, what I've recognized too is I want to get more people to understand this. So I'm trying to get into as many companies as I can to help either add to their leadership programs that they have, because leadership is taught. I think I had a 3-day leadership class at one point for my first leadership role, and that was it. And that was never talked about. Visibility was never talked about. It was something that other people just seemed to know somehow. And like there was a secret class that I wasn't invited to. So I
No
want
cool
people to
kids.
learn that. I want people to learn so that they can start to do it for themselves.
I love that, so powerful, and this needs to be taught more. You know,
Mhm.
I'm glad we're doing this podcast to help people see this, like, "Wait, there's another way? Wait, there's a reason why they don't know who I am?"
Yes.
It's kinda like it goes back to Office Space. Remember that movie?
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah,
"Bob, what is it that you do here?" It's like,
exactly.
"Oh boy, you don't know who I am?"
That's the worst, right?
Right, I always bring things back to that movie because that's kinda how I grew up seeing this job world, seeing
Mm.
leadership, communicating with people, like, they don't care, but then realizing in order for them to care, I have to take the steps to care. Like you said, to be more visible, care about myself, how I'm showing up. Because I can't change what they're doing, but if I change what I'm doing, it's gonna help reframe that conversation. or have more influence.
Right. And I used to think, like my manager is going to help me. They're going to, have conversations on my behalf and do
Exactly.
all, but that
Yeah.
doesn't happen, especially if your manager has tons of people underneath them, they can't talk about everybody. So I want to empower people to be able to do this for themselves, build their own group of fans around them, whether that's, their bosses, peers, or above them, just help more people get to know them and what they have to offer.
I love that. This is such a powerful thing. And also leads me to my next thing about building influence. So I feel like being visible builds that influence. Could you give
Yes,
us some more
100%.
tips about the influence building as well?
Yeah. So I think, I learned as I was leading global programs, I was going to need certain people in the organization to help remove obstacles along the way or to help, us succeed, right, with whatever we were doing. And so I started to build those relationships earlier and not wait until I needed them. So that's one tip. Make sure you're building these relationships up front so that when you need them, they're available. You don't have to just be meeting them for the first time and say, I need your help, right? But I always try to think about how can I add value to that person? So learning about what they need, how could I help them? Of course, they're going to ask me what I'm doing and how they can help me. So it's kind of like a reciprocal relationship that you create, but it's also about understanding them and what's important to them. So spending a little time thinking, what do they care about? What's important to them? What do they value? What are some concerns that they might have or challenges that I could help with? And a lot of people fear these influencing relationships because they think they don't have time for me. They don't want to hear from me. I don't know enough to talk to them. You absolutely do.
And put them on
Even
the
if it's just
pedestal.
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody should be an equal. I don't care where you are in the org chart. Everybody's an equal and just have a conversation because you come across so much more confidently when you see yourself as an equal. But you can help. I could just say, hey, let me introduce you to Justin. I don't know if you know him, but he's amazing. He has all of this information that I think would really help you with this project. Let me connect you. You can do something as simple as that because maybe you're somebody who knows a lot of people in the organization or recommend a podcast or recommend a book or there's all these things you can do, but I think we build it up and make it so complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah, it gets so complicated that we decide to do nothing, that we become
Correct.
miserable and complacent, and then we don't like our jobs and we like ourselves. It just compiles and we're like
Yes, yes.
snowballs.
Snowballs.
Yeah. I know because being in the workforce, that's all usually you're used to. People leading with their titles, people
Hmm.
above you telling you what to do. Your accountability is to them, not to yourself. We're
Yeah.
so used to that we don't like when I got into entrepreneurship, that shifted me realizing the accountability is on myself now. And we are equals. I saw that. I didn't put them on a pedestal. And they kind of saw that too in the company I work for. They're like, wait, you're not really like afraid of us or something. They expect us me to be here and them to be here, you know?
Yeah. Well, that
I
was the
can't realize.
old kind of leadership, right? Was the
Yeah,
command and control.
yeah.
And,
It's
that
still
just
there.
it's still there in certain places. And it's up to you, right, to decide how you want to start to show up and you can let them do their thing, but you can do your own thing. You can make your decisions for
Mhm.
yourself about how you want to show up and who you want to meet with and connect with. And I've definitely had situations where there are people above who may not have agreed that I should have been promoted at certain times, right? But I had enough support within the organization that said, yeah, she should. So, some of these things happen in ways that you may not even know. So, try to build as many fans as you can within the organization that know who you are and what you do. And it could change your career path. You just have no idea.
I love that. I know myself, I tried doing the organizational build for so long that I realized I'm tired of trying to ask for a seat at the table, that I need to create my own table. And I came to that realization. Now that's not for everyone, of course. There's some people that can be intrapreneurs, and that's fine. But being an entrepreneur, it takes a different kind of know-how and skill and the want.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep,
I'm curious to
definitely.
understand what are some challenges you found, or maybe some similarities in people that you coach to get them to understand being visible, removing imposter syndrome, and building their influence?
I mean, usually we start with kind of what's happening in their world right now, and they'll share a situation, right, that's not going well, or they got feedback that they're not doing well, or they just internally know that they want to get promoted and they have no idea how to do that. So I tend to want to understand how they think about it. because when I understand how they think about it, they'll just start talking and I can pick out imposter syndrome pretty quickly, limiting beliefs pretty quickly now. And it's all in the language that you use. So that's why I'm really trying to build that into the workbook because I did it too and didn't know it. So for example, I could say to you, I think I'm pretty good at my job. I don't know though. I mean, do you think I'm okay? Like that's very tentative language, very devaluing versus Justin, I'm really great at my job and I'm so excited to be here and I cannot wait for people to learn about this workbook I'm doing. It's a very different confidence level, right? And so if you are not being mindful of your image on a regular basis, people will pick up on, well, she seems pretty good, but she doesn't seem very confident. I don't know if we can give her more responsibility. So it's that type of thing that we have to pay attention to and start to find ways to tell our own story, to tell our own narrative about what we want people to know about us and to repeat to others. So if you have an opportunity, try to do that. Think about what you want people to know about you and then be able to share it with other people. And they'll start to look at you differently. They'll start to pay attention to you in a bigger way and could change your career.
I love that information. When I think about that in my mind right now. It's hard sometimes too. Trying to change your language and how you show up and how you portray stuff, just trying to reframe that. It's just very
Hmm.
difficult because you're so used to saying things one way and you think you're saying one thing, but really they're hearing something or seeing something completely different than you
Yes.
wanted them to. And I actually learned that difference in language recently. I didn't quite understand or see it.
I know. Well, I think because we're just doing whatever comes naturally to us. We're just talking to each other like a person.
Yeah.
But you need to have intention and be consistent with whatever you want people to know about you. And that is something that, as I learned that, I just tried to think about if I ran into somebody in the hallway, if I was in the office, what are some things I need to tell them? Or if I run into my boss today, what are some things I need to update them on? And the more you just prepare a little bit, it doesn't have to be crazy preparation. I don't want people to spend hours and hours.
200
Just
page
have a
essay.
Right, right. Just have a couple things ready to go. So that way, if something happens, you have the opportunity to use it and start sharing it. So, but it all starts with how you see yourself. And so if you don't see yourself as being someone who could sit at the table, then we have to start working on that first. And that's why I spend time trying to understand how they see themselves first. And then if we can get those thoughts to be reframed or shift a bit, then they can start taking different actions because of it. So when I went through my, moment of lack of visibility, I I had to create a sentence that helped me. And a lot of people might have heard of something similar to this, but it's kind of trying to take the future and bring it to the present. So like I am, and mine was, I'm a bold, visible leader who transforms organizations. So what did that mean? I could no longer sit in the back of the room. I could no longer not work on really important priority things. I had to develop my team. I had to say things. I had to show up in a visible way. So all of that changed how I showed up simply because I had to believe that sentence was true. And if that sentence is true, then that means my actions are different. And that's how people start to see differences in you. So that's what I work on with people is starting to shift their thinking into what is possible for you to be doing. What could you try? Just let's try something, right? We don't have to go crazy,
Yeah.
but let's try something and see how it works. And it's really fascinating. I think I've learned that I am a senior leader whisperer. I didn't know that about myself, but I've learned I can understand by what they say, what they're looking for, and then help my person I'm coaching be able to leverage that and have a different conversation. So sometimes it's just that miscommunication between the two. They get stuck. One wants something and the other one doesn't even understand what they want. And so they don't do it.
Happens
And
all
then it just causes frustration, right? Yeah. So I guess that's a gift I have. I didn't know I had until I started coaching
We're
people.
gonna have to have another conversation because I feel like you're in my head a little bit here.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just thinking I'm putting this into frame of thought, how I show up and my intention may not exactly like my words may not line up with it, but I'm actually trying to say sometimes.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that happens
It
a
happens
lot.
a lot. Yeah. It
Yeah.
happens a lot.
Like my head is perfect. And I say it, I'm like, what the hell did you just say? Lord.
Well, just know you can always go back. I used to think I have a one shot opportunity for this conversation. Times it doesn't work, right? And I've had people go back and I'll say, you know what? This is not a one and done. Just say, you know what? I don't think I said that really well the other day. I want to could I have another shot at it? Let me share it with you a different way. Yeah. And most of the time they're like, what did you even say? They don't even remember, right? But
That's the
we're
other
holding
thing.
on to it, right? We're holding on to it for the whole week, trying to figure out how to say it differently. So
Right?
recognize that there's not just one shot at any of this. You can keep going back and having a different conversation and resolve it.
I love that. It's so true. When you go back to people sometimes, even me, I'm like, I don't remember what you kind of said. But no.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're doing trying to deal with so much. Sometimes we have to hear things 3 or 4 times before we really understand them or
Yeah.
say them 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I think it's even 7 sometimes when you're
I've
trying
heard
to
that number.
influence somebody.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a big number, bigger than I would have liked when I was trying to do it all the time, but I think it's important. So, paying
Do you
attention to that,
understand the
just
words
know.
coming out of my mouth? Oh, that's some real stuff right there.
Yeah.
It's tough sometimes being in organizations and just trying to figure out who you are and how you're showing up for yourself, let alone doing that job and living up to that title, whatever it is, and doing that work. A lot of what you've been talking about, a lot of it really pours over into personal life, how you show up for you. And between the business and you, they go together hand in hand. And so many of us have not been trained or shown how to show up for ourselves. I didn't for the longest time.
I didn't either, and I think what's interesting is a lot of people struggle with this, and I remember when I got my first team, I continued to be an individual contributor with a manager title. So I knew how to do their jobs because I got promoted from within my group. So I knew their jobs, I knew my job, and so I just kept doing stuff or jumping in and trying to help, quote unquote help, but actually doing stuff and micromanaging, and I didn't even realize it. I was so worried that people might think they made the wrong decision to promote me that I was trying to make sure everything was handled and that everything looked great and perfect. But it's not as easy. And I think that's what I recognize too is I spent time after the fact later, but now I spend time with clients is kind of creating the foundation. Who do you want to be? How do you want to be seen as a leader? What do you want to show up as, in terms of like your values and your integrity and whatever those things are for you? What are your priorities? And the more you know about that, you have more confidence then because you know who you are, you trust yourself. Because there's going to be times where you're getting challenged and you're going to be the only one in the room
All
who
the
has to
time.
stand up to everybody else. So if you don't know enough about you and trust yourself, then it's really hard to do that because you're second guessing yourself then.
And they're
So
not
I
gonna
love
believe you. Yeah.
right, yeah, it has to show up confident, authentic, genuine. So the more you spend time with the inner leader, I'll call it, you can become a better external leader
So,
to everyone else, right? Like, who do you want to be?
and as weird as it sounds, it's really true and really powerful. Because
Yes.
I'm on that journey of realizing that self-leadership going inward points outward, you know? And that's like, for me, I realized I don't wanna work 9 to 5. I like to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week for myself.
Hmm.
And I tell that to people sometimes, they're like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" I'm on a mission, I'm purpose driven. That's the only
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
purpose
I feel the same. It doesn't feel like work, right? It
does
feels
that.
like we're just getting to do some cool stuff. And what's interesting, I solved all the visibility challenges I had in corporate, and then I started my own business, and they all came back because I'd never been a coach before. I'd never been an entrepreneur before. I'd
You're
never
like,
had my own business.
"No!"
Yeah, and I had no idea. So, I mean, there's things that we just again, it will come back, but just as soon as you recognize it, just recognize, take a step and do something to resolve it. So, I don't want people to be thinking, "Oh my gosh, I solved it." I thought I had
I used
solved
to
it.
think
I
that
definitely
too.
had not. Definitely did not. But yeah.
But I've been learning a different level, a different devil,
Yes.
you
Oh, I
know?
love that. Yeah,
Yeah, I
100%.
got that from Cody Sanchez, that's not mine.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
no matter
true
what
though.
level you're going at each step you're taking, there's always something else to conquer, always some other thing to be held accountable for and to keep going. And that's imposter syndrome. It can follow you, but as long as you can tame it, like you're talking about, it's
But
key.
and you need more visibility at each level. So the way I
Mm,
set up the book and the action plans in the book was if you're a beginner, if you're intermediate, or if you're advanced, if you're a senior leader,
how do you know?
of course you have to be visible, right? Not only internally, but externally. So how can you find ways that work to your strengths and try to use that and get out there more? So I work with a lot of people now at that senior level, trying to help them be visible in social media, be visible in speaking, in conferences, whatever that looks like, because they need to demonstrate thought leadership externally just as much as they do internally. And it's not comfortable for everybody to do that. So we
No.
start with little posts every once in a while just to get them used to it. And one of my clients is it's so funny, her company is out of the country and she traveled there recently and she was knocking on the door because she didn't have a key card to get in. And they opened the door and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're here." And she's thinking, "Do I know you?" And it's only because they saw her on social media enough to recognize her that they knew who she was, but she had no idea who they
Brand
so, I mean
recognition, powerful.
exactly. So it works, the more you can get out there and start to show yourself, people will start to connect and relate to you.
Oh, that is so powerful and 100%. I'm on that journey right now. And I talk to a lot of CEOs and try and convince them to come on the podcast, to start one. And they, oh, you're doing this. It's amazing. I mean, this is how I started. So it's kind of like I'm working on, like you're saying, putting the posts, putting my face out there. It's weird sometimes. I can do the podcast, but one of my coaches are helping me to they do 3 posts a day. They're not podcast related. I'm like,
Mhm.
what do you mean? Like, show them
Yeah.
my food? What? I understand what he means. There's more to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, one of my clients, he was running like a sponsor of a wellness initiative within his company, and he was traveling. And I said, and he loves to run. So I said, take a picture of your tennis shoes, your running shoes, right? And say, just went on a run. It was really great to clear my head. I believe in health and wellness, when I sponsor this thing. And I said, then add the business angle. I thought about some of the things we were going to do with the business today when we had our meetings or whatever it is. You have to kind of link it all back together to who you are as a leader. But I think you can talk about I can turn anything into a leadership post. Give me any topic. I can do it now because I've done it so long, but I know it's uncomfortable at first.
It
I
is.
totally get that.
It
Totally get
sucks.
that.
It's frustrating. You just said to me though, will you put that in the frame that my other coach wasn't really able to do just yet with me? I
Well, good.
see that tying it together with just simple little things and trying to route it back to the business. But now I say that, now I'm gonna go try and do it. It's gonna look messy and gross and horrible for a while.
No, you're going to do it. I have great faith in you. You can do it.
I believe after this conversation, I do have a little more clarity in that. And I'm hoping
Excellent.
other people do as well.
Yeah,
Those simple
me
little
too.
things can just, I've been learning this little bit at a time. We seem to overwhelm ourselves, especially as
Mhm.
like leaders and like running companies and doing podcasts. We try and take on so much stuff. Just do little steps at a time, small little wins.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we kind of are conditioned, right, to be busy and to work a
Yeah,
lot and all that kind of stuff. But that takes a toll, right, over time, and you're not sleeping enough and all that kind of stuff. So, I've tried to be better. There are moments like I'm launching a workbook, so my world is, kind of crazy right now.
productive, not
But
busy.
productive, yes. And so I think I have to think about, once that launches, not stopping by any stretch, but I won't probably be doing it as intensely as I am right
Right. And especially you have a team, hopefully, as well,
now. Yeah.
helping you.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. It really takes that off your plate.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's kind of like you're on that you're driven with a purpose to help other people. So in the end, it's really all worth it, and it's
Yeah,
all
it's
tied back
totally worth it.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I didn't realize I liked to write and that I wanted to be an author. I had no idea that was something I was even going to pursue. So, all the things I've done since I left the company are all brand new, things I never did before. So, it's kind of just shows you, if you have a mission and a purpose, you will figure out ways to do things that are
absolutely.
uncomfortable for you, but you have a responsibility to get that message out. And how can you do that if you're not speaking or getting on podcasts or,
Stop
writing a
yelling
book or
at
doing
me.
something?
Gee, get it already.
Promise not yelling at you. Anybody else who wants to
Gee,
hear that message. But that's the message I got when I put the book out, and I
so
didn't
true.
even think about it. He's like, "You have a responsibility to do that, Sue. If you write a good book, you need people to know about it, and if you're not talking about it, how are they gonna know?" So, again, visibility for everything.
That is so powerful, and that, like that you said, that wraps back around to your visibility. That's
Mhm.
so important. I myself never thought about writing a book, but I was like, "Why the hell would I do that?" But I've been on this journey, it's kinda in my back of my head, and maybe I could do that if I wanted to now. Where would that thought come from?
Yeah. If I can do it, you can do it, I promise. I had no idea. I'd never even written a blog before when I left the company. I did that for 18 months just to get used to finding my voice, show thought
Yeah,
leadership, stop being an IT director and, become this leadership coach and focus on that stuff instead to get people to see me. And that was how I got my first clients, because I wrote about the vulnerable experiences I had and I had never shared with anybody. So when you do that, they can see themselves inside. So you could do some of this, Justin. Like
Yeah.
people can see in your story themselves. And then when they see themselves, they'll think, well, she figured it out. I need to talk to her. How did she do that? So that's how I started to get clients in the beginning. But my intent was to just change how people saw me, change my identity a bit, and let that go from the corporate world into this world. But ultimately, it worked out getting me clients at the same time. So win win. This is great.
Right? I feel that it's very powerful because I'm in that same thing where I'm learning to be more human and connect with other humans. And then they see that how they can connect with you and like they resonate with it.
Yeah.
But still at the
Yeah.
same time, a hard time writing things. Like I
Yeah.
started
Well,
using
that
ChatGPT for a while, but then I started
exactly.
learning from it and realizing, okay, I can actually do this myself. But it's difficult.
And
I'm
it
not good
doesn't
at
have to
writing.
be long. It could be like, if you notice, a lot of people on LinkedIn now just will write one sentence, skip few spaces, write the next sentence. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be a million words at all. It can be just, you're thinking something you learned from a guest. You have all kinds of opportunity. You're interviewing people all the time.
No, I was trying
You've
to
got
actually
all kinds
use
of
it
things.
more. I've actually been thinking of ways to put it together and use these to help me, or even using it to write a blog or something. I'm
Yes,
trying to
I
figure it
reuse
out.
everything. Everything
Yeah,
is reused. It's either starts as something writing and becomes a podcast or vice versa, so that you're never having to think about what you're going to talk about. You've got a
that is
bunch of
so true.
things ready to go.
And now, like you said earlier, taking the action and doing it. And for me, sometimes it'd be a little rough because there's so many things my mind is going like this neurodiverse 1,000 miles a minute, million miles an hour.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I could do this, I could do that. Or what should I do? I'm gonna do nothing and I'll be settled with that. But I know
Yeah,
I can't, but
I get it. Yeah. Sometimes that's what you need to do too, though, is just take a break, right?
and I do that and I realize, oh, now I know what to do. It kind of kicks back into actions.
It's amazing, right? If we just settle down, our brains actually help us come up with ideas. It's amazing how that works.
Who didn't think of these things, you know? Less thought creates more action.
Yes. Yeah.
Go figure.
Go figure.
Susan, it's been wonderful having you on here, being able to pick your brain and understand so many of these concepts about imposter syndrome, being visible, and building influence. Appreciate you coming on here today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been great. I hope
Yeah.
everybody takes away at least one little nugget that they can apply in their world of IT and anything else they might be working on in their lives, and be more visible, everybody.
Yes. Before we go, is there any last words you'd like to leave with people and where they can reach out to you and find your book as well?
Sure. Yeah. So you can reach me at my website is SusanM as in Mary Barber.com. And I have pages up for the Visibility Factor and pages up for the new book, Your Journey to Visibility Workbook. The podcast is also on there. I think my last message for everybody is to remember that every interaction you have is an opportunity for visibility. And so taking the time to think about what could you share about yourself, your team, your work in a way that people can hear it and recognize the value of it is so important.
That inside. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll put
Of
everything
course.
in the description as well so they can find it.
Perfect.
Yes. Well, thank you so much again, Susan. It's been a pleasure. And I hope to have you back on here again, pick your brain some more.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, Susan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.